Absolutely breaking news just happened for the Cincinnati Bengals today, and I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. You guys probably know exactly what I'm talking about. That the Cincinnati Bengals are allowing all-pro defensive edge rusher Trey Hendrickson to seek his own trades. This is coming from obviously multiple sources, but this is coming what I'm showing you to show proof that I'm not crazy. Cincinnati Bengals Sports Illustrated. Cincinnati Bengals give Trey Hendrickson permission to seek trade. Obviously, Trey Hendrickson is one of the big three guys this offseason that need to get an extension. He has been very vocal saying either pay me or trade me. Now the Cincinnati Bengals are actually allowing Trey Hendrickson to seek his own trade. Go out to look, see what the market is, and obviously he's still under contract, so it would have to be a trade. Cincinnati would have to accept it. All that good stuff. But I don't think I have to sell you on the factors Trey Hendrickson gives to this team and how amazing of a player he is. But I'm going to go dive deep into this, especially with a new report. Because a lot of people were mad when this first came out. A lot of went on Twitter. It was all I saw, Bengals fans getting mad about how we are allowing him to seek a trade. Obviously, at some aspect, yes, it's a failure. We didn't come to a long-term extension before now, and we're even just allowing him to go seek his own trade. But I think this is a good idea. It's a smart move for what the Bengals allowed him to do. And to prove this, once again from the Cincinnati Bengals Sports Illustrated, this is coming from the Cincinnati Bengals Sports Illustrated writer, Jay Morrison. Why the Bengals letting Trey Hendrickson explore trade options is the right move. So I'm going to go literally through his entire report because he lays it out perfectly and explain as we go along. So here's the beginning of the report. The last thing Duke Tobin, said after being asked about Hendrickson was this: "We're going to talk as the offseason goes and hopefully come to an agreement that everyone's acceptable of. But are we there yet? We're not there yet. Obviously, Cincinnati and Trey Hendrickson are not close enough yet to a long-term extension. That chasm between offer and demand never narrowed. It may have actually widened after the Las Vegas Raiders gave Max Crosby, who had 10 fewer sacks than Hendrickson in 2024 and 14 and a half fewer over the last 4 seasons, a 3-year, $106.5 million contract. Henderson wants money in that range, and why wouldn't he? He's far outplayed the contract he signed in 2021 and the extension he inked last year, which would pay him a base salary of $15.8 million this year." So just go over that first bit of the report. Obviously, that deal with Max Crosby with the Raiders kind of not screwed over the Bengals, but it just adds a little bit of pressure on the Bengals to kind of basically give Trey Hendrickson a similar deal. Let's say player-wise, if you're going to rank defensive edges, I would rank Max Crosby above Trey Hendrickson, like I feel a lot of people would. But realistically, the stats don't back that up. So Trey Hendrickson, yes, he should be making more than 15 a year. I even said I would give him up to 25 a year. That's why I would that range, 25 to 28 million a year for Trey Hendrickson, what I think is perfectly fine. But then Jay goes on to discuss more on it. That's laughable for someone who posted back-to-back seasons with 17.5 sacks and led the league in that category. He's saying it's laughable, the 15 a year, and led the league in that category in 2024 while earning an All-Pro nod and finishing second Defensive Player of the Year. But Hendrickson is 30. He'll be 31 before the 2025 season concludes. The cliff is coming. Everyone knows it, but no one knows exactly when. So this is the thing when you're dealing with defensive edge rushers. Being a defensive edge is one of the hardest positions in football, especially on your body. It takes a lot to maintain the elite status for the defensive edge room. Trey Hendrickson is 30. He is going to be 31, like this report says, before the 2025 season concludes. And that is usually the 30 age range is usually the age range when defensive edges all of a sudden hit that cliff, which the report goes on to talk about later, which I'll be talking about later. So that's the thing Cincinnati has to work on. If they're willing to pay Trey Hendrickson, who is 30 going on 31, defensive edge money for somebody who should be doing what he's doing when he's around like 25. Bengals would be way more willing to give Trey Hendrickson the money Max Crosby got if he was 25 instead of 30. That's just how the world works. I'm going to read it. It might be hard to see. The Bengals are playing the odds. Trading Hendrickson is like doubling down on 11 in blackjack. Extending him with Crosby-like money would be splitting tens. There are no guarantees either way, but it's obvious to most what should be done. In addition to playing the odds, the front office also might be playing some old home videos. Remember back in 2018 when the Bengals signed Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins to massive contracts on the same day. They gave Atkins $65.3 million over 4 years. Atkins gave them another 14 and a half sacks before his body shut down. Atkins was 30 years old and 153 days old when he signed that extension. Hendrickson is 30 years old, 91 days. So, Geno Atkins, obviously one of the greatest defensive tackles in Bengal history. He hit that cap around the same age Trey Hendrickson is now. Obviously, there has been development in a bunch of different things, medicines, therapy, workouts, food, all that good stuff, which is allowing players to play at a more of an elite level for a longer time. But still, defensive edge is one of the hardest positions to keep that elite status for that long, especially with the age range of Trey Hendrickson. And I know the value of Trey Hendrickson. I think he should be making $25 a year, but the Bengals are allowing him to look at the market because they don't know if they're willing to give him that money with the chance that his body could literally shut down. Plus, Hendrickson hasn't been the easiest player to deal with. He threatened to hold out in 2033, only to sign a one-year extension. He asked for another extension last year, even though he wasn't eligible for one by NFL rules, so he requested a trade instead. Hendrickson gave the Bengals their only semblance of a pass rush in 2024 when the defense wasted an MVP-level season by quarterback Joe Burrow and a Triple Crown performance from wide receiver Jamar Chase. Obviously, Trey Hendrickson is very valuable for the Bengals defense, considering he was the only significant player on the defensive side last season. That cost defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo his job, and subsequent moves have continued a teardown of the front seven. Longtime fan favorite defensive end Sam Hubbard retired Wednesday. The team cut defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins last month. Defensive tackle P.J. Hill is a free agent and is currently still a free agent. Linebacker Jermaine Pratt will either be traded or released. So, with that being said, the Bengals defense is going to be insanely different next season. Obviously, the goal is that Trey Hendrickson is still a part of that defensive front going on for the foreseeable future. At least as long as he can continue to play. I do agree with Hendrickson not being the easiest to deal with. He has demanded a lot from the front office, but he also, I love the guy personally. He also has, on many shows, has defended the Bengals front office and how much they have helped him. So I appreciate that. But there's so many things that go into this contract. Trey Hendrickson is betting on himself. Cincinnati, they don't know if they're willing to bet on him with their money, which is basically the main rundown of that. Letting Hendrickson explore options is the right move for multiple reasons. Here we get into the reasons. First, he might find out that his market value isn't what he thinks it is and be forced to come back to the Bengals to negotiate with new parameters. So that would be not best case scenario for Cincinnati, because obviously you want him to have good market value if you're going to trade him. But let's say Trey Hendrickson goes out, talks to whoever needs a pass rusher, like let's say the Buccaneers, right? They need a pass rusher, right? But the market value is nowhere near what Max Crosby got. Trey Hendrickson could look himself in the mirror and be like, all right, fine, I'm being stingy. Let me go back to Cincinnati and get a reasonable deal that is team-friendly for Trey Hendrickson. Well, obviously the Bengals, team-friendly for the Bengals, but also sufficient for Trey Hendrickson to be in Cincinnati for long term. I think really all Trey Hendrickson wants, obviously he wants the money he's owed, which is significantly more than he's making now, and I agree with that. But he also wants stability and security with a franchise for the foreseeable future. If he goes out to the market, sees his value isn't as much as he thinks it is, comes back to Cincinnati, they come to a team-friendly deal, which keeps him in Cincinnati for the long foreseeable future. That's the best case scenario. or if Hendrickson finds a trade and sign deal with a new team, Cincinnati should get at least a second-round pick for him, and this draft is loaded with pass rushing talent, both on edge and the interior. So obviously, even if we were, I would love to get a first-rounder, but even if we were get a second-rounder, you could get like Walter Nolan in the first round and then have 2 picks this year, get like Jack Sawyer, and then go after a guy like Xavier Watts. Then in 3 picks, also because of a Trey Hendrickson trade, you're getting Walter Nolan, Jack Sawyer, and Xavier Watts to improve the 2025 defense, and all 3 of them would be starters in 2025. So that's another option. Plus, the Bengals will save $6 million in cap space. That won't necessarily be used to sweeten the pot for T. Higgins and or Jamar Chase. The Bengals aren't dragging out those negotiations before they can't afford what the receivers are asking. So obviously, Duke Tobin has already said Jamar Chase will be the highest paid non-quarterback, and then T. Higgins will, obviously we already franchise tag him, so as of right now, he's making $26 next year. But what it sounds like, they're doing whatever it takes to make sure he will be a Bengal next season. Is they simply the Bengals aren't willing to pay what's being asked. Knowing where things stand with Hendrickson will give them a little more flexibility to come off their price point, and more importantly, ratchet up the urgency to try to at least get Higgins done before free agency starts next week. Most of the cap savings from Hendrickson will be flipped into adding more defensive players in free agency. Yes, it's jarring to let the NFL sack leader out of the building, but it's something that hasn't happened since 2007. When the Kansas City Chiefs let Jared Allen and his 15.5 sacks go to the Minnesota Vikings. Allen was 26, so this is the difference. Allen walking away from Kansas City was kind of crazy at the age of 26. Trey Hendrickson is 30 going on 31. Allen was 26 and played 8 more seasons with 93 more sacks on his way to the Hall of Fame. Hendrickson is 30. Edge rushers are a different breed these days. There are some of the freakiest athletes on the field. Power, speed, and blend and explosion. No matter how well an athlete takes care of his body, some of those traits aren't going to hold up after 30. Offensive tackles can do it, quarterbacks too, but edge rushers are different. There's only been one player in the last 11 seasons to record as many sacks as Trey Hendrickson did last season. Robert Quinn had 18.5 sacks for the Bears at age of 31. So here is kind of Jay Morrison's close. Yeah. These last 2 images are as close. Trade Hendrickson, get younger, and let that group grow and mature under the new defensive coordinator, Al Golden. With what should be 4 selections in the top 81 picks can go a long way in rebuilding that defensive line while continuing to develop recent premium picks. Myles Murphy, first round, 2023. Chris Jenkins, second round, 2024. And McKinley Jackson, third round, 2024. Which Chris Jenkins and McKinley Jackson showed a lot of promise last season, late in the year. Myles Murphy has been a disappointment, to say the least, in the first 2 seasons, but has shown flashes, so maybe if he had more playing time, he would be more a round-up player, like this says. Murphy has been a disappointment thus far, but a lot has been tied to playing time. He showed some flashes toward the end of the last season, and there was plenty of optimism surrounding rookies Jenkins and Jackson. Expecting Henderson to continue to produce the way he has the last 3 years over the next 3 years would be a mistake. Paying him that way would be a catastrophic one. So Morrison's take on this is the fact that if you're going to pay Trey Hendrickson the top market value for defensive edge, it's not worth it because of his age range. We all know that Trey Hendrickson, that cliff is coming. And I don't like to say that, and I don't want to say that, but that's just how it works. His cliff is coming. That cliff could be 3 years down the road. 3 years down the road. Like Trey Hendrickson could have 3 years in a row where he's getting 17.5 sacks, but then all of a sudden he just falls down the cliff. That could be next year. That could be in 2 years, maybe 5 years from now. But I don't know if Cincinnati is willing to pay top dollars to bet on that fact, because they don't. Maybe if they knew he would have 17.5 more sacks for the next 3 seasons, they would be willing to pay that top money. But they don't know that for sure. So it's no secret how valuable Trey Hendrickson is to the front office and to the Cincinnati Bengals in general, especially the defense. But with the value he has right now, with the amount of talent on the front defensive line in this draft right now, a trade wouldn't be the worst. I don't like it, and I don't want it to happen, but it wouldn't be the worst. And like Trey himself even said, pay him or trade him, right? And he even said, I want to make sure Cincinnati wins a Super Bowl, whether that means I'm there or that means them trading me to get picks. He doesn't want to just walk in free agency. He wants to do something for Cincinnati, whether that's him being there, getting sacks, or trading away for picks. And just to show you guys how important he is, Trey Hendrickson, 30 years old. Last season, total tackles 46, had 33 solo tackles. Obviously led the league with 17 and a half sacks and forced 2 fumbles. And with his 4 seasons at the Bengals, his Bengals career so far, hopefully longer, total tackles 155 with 104 solo tackles, 57 sacks, and 11 forced fumbles. And once again, 4 years with the Cincinnati Bengals. So hopefully all this, when the dust settles, it remains the fact that Ja'Marr Chase, Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson are all Cincinnati Bengals for the foreseeable future. But if the worst comes to the worst and we trade Trey Hendrickson for some picks, it's not the worst of the worst, right? There's always, like even Sam Hubbard, he hit that cliff, and it sucks to see, and it's so sad to see him retire. But that's just how that's how football works. Edge rushers, it's extremely hard to maintain their body to have an elite status for that long. But I believe in Trey Hendrickson. I believe he can have another back-to-back 17.5 sack season. But I don't know if the Cincinnati Bengals are willing to pay top dollar for that risk. So I hope his 17.5 sacks next season with the Cincinnati Bengals. But if it's with another team, I will still be cheering him on. And hopefully that gets us a guy in the draft who can replace him for the foreseeable future. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. We've already hit 1,000 subscribers, but we're on the road to 2,000 before my birthday on March 31st, which is a huge ask, but I know you guys can do it. But thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe again. Don't forget to share this video with your other Cincinnati Bengals friends and fans, because Cincinnati Bengals football is better together. But don't forget to comment down below how you feel about this situation, if you're just pissed at the front office or if you agree with me and Jay that this is the right move. But for the Bengals Digest channel, I'm Carson Lokey. Have an amazing one.